Succeed like a man and lead like a woman. I live in a man's world. Men dominate the history, language, and culture of business. But being a woman is an opportunity. I haven't been afraid to lead like a woman. I lead with my heart, not just with my head. And I am giving you permission to lead like a woman. Even though society teaches us male leadership, forget it. Go with your gut. Trust your instinct. Use your intuition. Women can succeed and thrive in this world, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. But how do I know? What makes me an expert on this? I've lived it for the last 30 years. I'll give you a description of myself. I genuinely care about people. I'm sensitive. I'm a good listener. I'm decisive. I'm a multitasker, and I'm always putting others first. So do these sound like traits of a mother or a leader of a global organization of CEOs and presidents? Actually, both. I've been a single mother for the past 15 years, and I have 3 kids ages 24, 23, and 20. I'm the CEO of a nationwide residential mortgage banking company, and in 2011, I served as the YPO International Chairman. YPO is Young Presidents Organization. It's a not-for-profit, member-led organization of more than 20,000 CEOs and presidents from around the world. The young is because you need to join before the age of 45. And the only mission of YPO is to make better leaders through education and idea exchange. I'm happy to say that I am the first and only woman in the 63-year history of YPO to serve as international chairman. Repeatedly, I've been asked, how did I get here? So I'm going to tell you my story. So I graduated with a marketing and finance degree from University of Wisconsin-Madison. I got a job with IBM. I was going to be selling mainframe computers in their data processing division. And they had never hired a woman in the sales position. And if you can believe this, in the interview, they actually asked me this question: are you afraid of computers? Well, it's 1981. I've taken 1 computer science class, and I only knew how to use an electric typewriter. But of course I said, I'm not afraid. I'm ready to learn whatever I need to learn. I'm going to grab this opportunity. So I worked at IBM for 3 years, and then I got into the residential mortgage banking business. In 1992, I became president and then went on to become CEO, which then allowed me to join YPO. I did that in the Chicago chapter in 1997. In 2005, I became the first woman in the Chicago chapter to be their chapter chair. I was getting so much from this organization. It seemed like the more I gave, the more I was getting back, and I felt I was being treated as an equal. And as a global organization, I wanted to get involved internationally. So I volunteered and did some work on the international basis, and I ended up getting elected to chair one of the committees, which gave me a position on the international board. There's 22 global members on that international board, and it's a 3-year term. Well, I learned a lot about governance. I learned about servant leadership, which actually really sort of came natural to me because I was always putting others first. Well, I ended up getting nominated to be the international chairman. It was an unbelievable opportunity, but I didn't think the timing was right. First of all, it was a really challenging time in the banking business at that time. And number 2, I had 2 kids in college, and my youngest was a senior in high school, so she'd still be home. And I thought, gosh, if this was 1 year later, she'd be off to college. Hopefully the economy's improving. Hopefully the banking business will have stabilized. But I didn't know if the opportunity would be there. So I thought about it, and I just finally kind of surrendered and said, I've got to do this. And I was leaning in. And so I'm happy to say that I was elected, and that's really where my journey starts. So I got unbelievable feedback from the membership. They seemed so excited. And the membership, the 20,000 members, 93% are men. And they embraced me. They were excited for me. And in fact, a number of the past international chairmen reached out to me, and they wanted to help me, and they wanted to really support me and help me be a success. And they had a consistent message. They told me three things. They said, number one, they said it's unbelievably difficult to manage your job as a CEO of a company and be the international chairman. They said, try to find somebody to run your business for the year. Well, that wasn't possible. It's a critical time in my business. I need to stay involved. And frankly, I thought, since my kids were born, I've been multitasking, being the CEO of the company, a full-time career, and being a full-time mother. So I'll fit this in. Number two, they said, it's a huge letdown when your term is over. They said, don't ever think it's about you. It's about the position. Make sure you find people to ground you. And I kind of laughed, so that's easy. I've got 3 kids that humble me all the time. But I could see how that would happen. I was in Jordan at the King and Queen's Palace introducing the King of Jordan. And I was in Paris at the U.S. Embassy having dinner with the U.S. ambassador. Then I was in Shanghai. I was at the closing ceremony of the World's Fair. Kind of goes on. But the third piece of advice they gave me, which was kind of the scariest of all, is they looked at me and they said, you will gain 20 pounds during your term. And all I could think was, college, the freshman 15. I had already gone through that, and I wasn't going to let that happen again. So packed my gym shoes and went to every treadmill of every hotel. Anyways, one of the first responsibilities that I had was to pick a theme for the year. And I looked at the themes from previous years, and they were bold, and they were attention grabbers. And so I wanted something that the members could feel. So my theme was back to the basics and putting the heart back in the organization. You could kind of tell that came from a woman, and I wasn't afraid to show that. So as I started to travel around the world, which I think I went to 18 different countries and met with members, I wanted to tell them all the great offerings that YPO had, and they listened, but they all seemed to want to hear my story. They wanted to hear, how did I balance this YPO International Chairman position with a family and work? And probably the greatest revelation of all on these travels was having men come up to me and say, I am so excited to go and tell my daughter that there's a woman who's international chairman. It was amazing. And then I reflected on myself and I thought, wow, my dad has had so much impact on me. He's encouraged me. He's always treated me like an equal with my brother and always made sure I knew that I had any opportunity that anybody else had out there. So I've been thinking so much about this over the last couple of years, and I call this the daughter phenomenon. I think that dads want their daughters to be the next generation of women leaders. I just picked up last week looking at this article, and it was written by the co-founder of the Covey Leadership Institute, and he talks about his 3 daughters. And the title of the article is, We Need More Women Leaders Now. He wants, and he's stressing that he wants his daughters to have the absolute same opportunities that their male counterparts have. So my journey continues, and everything wasn't easy. There were some real challenges I had to tackle during my year, and one of them was at the Global Leadership Conference. The Global Leadership Conference rotates around the world, happens once a year. Members from over 100 countries attend, and there's thought-provoking speakers, and this one happened to be in Denver. Well, we had Julian Assange, and as you know, Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, he published government information. Well, he was going to be speaking on satellite because he was under house arrest in England, and it was very controversial. The next day, as our final speaker, we had past President George W. Bush, who was going to be the speaker. Well, Bush's representatives, the White House, they got wind of this, and they said, you cannot have Assange speak. Well, 2 hours, he was coming on in satellite. A couple thousand people were at the Global Leadership Conference. We needed to make a decision. I needed to make the decision. What do you do? I know I'm going to alienate somebody, a lot of people, with whatever decision is made. It has nothing to do with me as a U.S. citizen. I've got to look what's right for this global organization. So, decisions made. The outcome is Assange speaks, Bush cancels, get Tom Brokaw to fly in within 24 hours to be the speaker. It was the #1 tweet of the day. It was on the ticker tape of CNN. I was quoted in newspapers across the country, and I had a ton of member feedback. Some were applauding how courageous I was and how decisive, and others were just flat out angry. So it was quite a year. I was working 7 days a week. It sure felt like 24 hours a day. And the question is, how did I balance this? Or I'd rephrase it and say, how did I deal with the guilt of traveling around for YPO when I had a business that was in need and these kids? Well, I can tell you I was doing emails nonstop all the time. When I got back in town, I had to immediately the next day be in my office. There was no time for jet lag. I slept as much as I possibly could on the plane. And I remember being in Cape Town and coming back from an event that night, and I had tons of emails and 2 really important ones. One from my oldest son, who was a senior in college, saying, you gotta review my resume, I've gotta get it out tomorrow. Number 2, my next son, he had a college paper that needed editing, and of course he waited to the last minute, it was due that day, I needed to do that. Finally get to sleep, 3 in the morning, my phone rings, and it's my daughter, urgent. She's the senior in high school. She's planning her spring break trip to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. She needs my authorization, she needs my deposit, and can I come as one of the chaperones? So my kids sure kept me grounded during that year as they have throughout the years. And the one thing about balance, I would say, because I've thought a lot about that too, I don't really think that you can learn balance until you have the need for balance. And I really needed that balance that year. And I think it's made me a better mother and a better leader. So one last thing quickly. I thought I could fit everything in. Well, I couldn't. This was the year of no social life. So I remember being out on a date, and the guy said at the end of the date, when can we go out again? When can we have that second date? And I said, let's see, how about in 5.5 weeks? I'm gonna be in Mumbai, Istanbul, and Winnipeg for work. I'm gonna be in Charleston that was for YPO, I'm gonna be in Charleston for work, Austin, Texas for a college visit. Never got that second date. So you can want it all, and you can have it all, you just necessarily can't have it all at the same time. So this is how I got here. I think it's because I've been true to myself. I've been a woman. I haven't tried to change who I am. My experiences have taken me across cultures and time zones, and I feel like I've just cruised through stop signs. And I haven't done it driving a 4-wheeler. I've been in a convertible with the wind at my back, just taking me along, and I'm ready to grab the next opportunity. So thank you.